Hey boys and girls, you know what time it is again? It's Russian disinformation time! Welcome to America Uncovered, I'm Chris Chappell. Russian influence operations are a real thing, and it's been a hot topic these days due to accusations of interference in the last two presidential elections. They're like Nickelback. You can't have a discussion about them without it devolving into a shouting match over whether they're the worst thing ever or if the negativity around them is completely overblown. And with a close election not far away, it's not surprising that last week, the Justice Department accused two employees of Russian state-owned media outlet RT of covertly funding and directing a U.S. company to further Russian interests. Although not directly named in the indictment, that company matched the description of Tenet Media, an outlet founded by conservative Canadian influencer Lauren Chen and her husband Liam Donovan. According to the indictment, the Russians funneled nearly $10 million into Chen's company Tenet Media to support 6 online influencers, including big names like Dave Rubin, Benny Johnson, and Tim Pool, all for the purposes of influencing public opinion. Tim Pool? Oh my gosh, I didn't know Russians wanted to influence Americans to wear beanies to garden parties. Among other things, the Russians reportedly wanted content blaming the US and Ukraine for the ISIS attack on Moscow earlier this year. And footage of former Fox News host Tucker Carlson visiting a Moscow supermarket. This is the most boring supermarket sweep reboot I can imagine. Federal prosecutors said that while the views expressed in the videos are not uniform, the subject matter and content of the videos are often consistent with the government of Russia's interest in amplifying U.S. domestic divisions in order to weaken U.S. opposition to core government of Russia interests, such as its ongoing war in Ukraine. And I know with that whole Trump-Russiagate thing, anytime you hear anything approaching Russian agent, it starts to sound like someone is pushing a bottled protein drink that doesn't taste like chalk-flavored pudding. I've been burned too many times before. As a result of the indictment, the influencers connected to the scheme released statements saying they were victims, but had remained in complete control over their own editorials. Influencers claiming they're victims. Wow, that means it's another day ending in Y. Poole himself went on record to eloquently say Russia sucks and that he's not a fan of Russia. Helping to alleviate doubt, Attorney General Merrick Garland confirmed that the influencers were not aware that they were being backed by Russians. And while they might not have been aware of the Russian influence, certainly they're going to miss those Russian deals that paid them as much as $400,000 a month. If only America Uncovered could get that much per year. Make sure you subscribe and join our Patreon. That'll show the Russians who's boss. As for Lauren Chen, Blaze TV fired her, Turning Point USA removed her contributor profile page from its website, and YouTube took down channels connected to Chen and Tenet Media. Call her a tray after baking lasagna because she got scrubbed. And as bad as all that seems, it actually gets worse in a way, because people see this whole situation very differently depending on where they fall on the political spectrum. Yay for political partisan interpretations! For proof, look no further than left-leaning mainstream media outlets. They were quick to point out that the influencers involved were pro-Trump pundits acting as paid messengers for Russian propaganda on a pro-Trump media outlet. Some even went so far as to claim, without evidence, that influencers were actually in on helping Russia.
This company that is described in Tennessee as a pretty well-known MAGA media company. It has on its payroll many of the top pro-Trump voices in this country, and they were knowingly conspiring with Russia.
I sure hope they stretched their hamstrings before making such a leap. Some media outlets like US Today also went out of their way to name-drop Republicans who appeared on Tenet Media podcasts, all for innocent purposes, I assume, and claimed that the Russian government favors the Republican Party and Trump over Democratic Vice President Kamala Harris, which is kind of funny seeing that Trump pushed for NATO countries to boost their defense spending and warned against Russia's gas pipeline deal, to much of the world's laughter. Well, who's laughing now? Actually, not Trump. He was recently almost assassinated. Remember that? It does seem that left-leaning media is using the Tenet Media case as a license to now accuse Republicans of spreading Russian disinformation whenever they say something those on the left don't like.
It seems the reality of it all is You hear these narratives. Ukraine is our true enemy, or the economy is doing so terribly, it's in ruin, in spite of ample evidence to the contrary. How the white man is falling behind because the government is giving preferential treatment to blacks and brown people. Remember the twin boogeyman of DEI and critical race theory? You hear these things and you think, yeah, these are just right-wingers being the miserable wretches that they always are. When it turns out, they might also be getting cash apps from Mother Russia to say it.
So that's how the left side of the political spectrum is interpreting the story. Of course, the right has its own interpretation. Many on the right believe that all of this is part of a conspiracy to make them look bad and hand victory over to Democrats. They point to Chen being anti-Trump and claim that it's not Trump the Russians want in office, but Vice President Kamala Harris.
Their agenda now for months has been what's called division grifting inside the conservative movement. Lauren Chen's been putting out a lot of tweets explaining to people that they should vote against Trump. If the Russians were paying Tenet Media to put out content, that content was actually anti-Trump. It was trying to get people to vote against Trump. Tenet Media was working against Trump's interests. So apparently the Russians don't want Trump to win the presidential election. They want Kamala Harris.
As for Russia preferring Harris, Putin said it himself that he supports her. And surely we should take Putin at his word. There's no way he could be trolling America. But what if this was all just a sinister plot? Many are looking at how the Justice Department is cracking down on Russian disinformation and conclude that this is part of some revamped Russia narrative designed by Democrats to set the stage for Russiagate 2.0 and help Harris win the election. Because we all saw how well that worked out when Hillary Clinton definitely won the 2016 election. And besides the expected political party drama, when it comes to this Tenet Media mess, many are raising the alarm on YouTube banning people and concluding that the Biden administration and government agencies are using Tenet Media to go after critics and silence them. Which is crazy. I mean, it's not like we ever heard anything about the Biden administration pressuring social media to censor content they don't like, and we definitely didn't hear about it like a week ago.
The Department of Justice, so-called, which is a grotesque, really, parody of a Department of Justice, indicted 2 foreigners and named in the indictment 3 conservative podcasters, internet figures, all Trump supporters, as somehow connected to a foreign country, and immediately their content started disappearing from, say, YouTube. So basically you have the Biden administration's Department of Justice shutting down criticism of the Biden administration.
To be clear, YouTube has taken down Tenet Media, Lauren Chen's channels, and Taylor Hanson's channel entirely, but has not taken down the channels of the other influencers. But who cares about nuance when you can paint your political opponents in the worst possible light? Now, as we all know, these concerns didn't come out of a vacuum. Democrats had pushed the 2016 Trump-Russia collusion story, despite the Mueller report and the U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee finding no proof of it. They also suppressed the Hunter Biden laptop story, claiming it was Russian disinformation when it wasn't. With that in the back of people's minds, some Republicans automatically assume the Tenet Media story is just another case of Democrats crying Russian wolf to push some agenda. If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, they're going to assume the Democrats will call that duck a Russian asset.
A lot of those allegations that they were somehow helping Trump, I actually got curious. Actually, you could make strong arguments that a lot of these posts or whatever actually weren't helping Trump at all. But the fact that they called that Russian election interference again just suggests to me that this may be part of a pattern of what we saw in 2016 and 2020.
Well, you think?
So I don't really buy what they're selling on this.
This does not bode well for the Justice Department. It's just proving once more how trust in institutions is at a record low. If it and other government agencies really want to take threats like foreign influence seriously, then maybe they should work harder to gain trust back and not be as annoyingly formulaic as a Nickelback song. If you like America Uncovered's nonpartisan take on news and politics, be sure to subscribe, smash that like button, and share this video with your friend, and hit that orange button. Support us on Patreon. We're not getting Russian money. And here's another video about the war on woke in the new Warhammer video game Space Marine 2 that I want you to check out. Just click here. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.